Three children say they've been bullied during the pandemic, and nearly 2 in 5 children were worried about bullying when they returned to class after months of school closures. The survey was carried out by the Anti-Bullying Alliance as part of Anti-Bullying Week, an initiative to raise the awareness of the harm caused by bullying. I'm joined now by author and life coach Charlie Hoare, someone who knows only too well from personal experience what harm bullying can have. Charlie, when did it start for you?
Hi Sarah, thanks for inviting me on. It started when I was 13. I just turned 13. It went on for about 2 years, and and then I finally ended up leaving that school because it was so bad.
What form did the bullying take, Charlie?
All forms really, from kind of physical abuse to verbal abuse to actually worst of all exclusion. I think there's nothing more kind of psychologically damaging for a child than being completely isolated and excluded from the group.
And this was one particular individual, but as you say, exclusion, it became more widespread. You felt very much on your own.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it was there was one kind of ringleader, but I guess as often happens when there's bullying in a school or any environment, actually, other people kind of stand by and don't do much about it, or sometimes join in. But yes, there was one main individual, the ringleader of it, for sure.
Why do you think, and I'm sure you've thought about this a lot over the years since, Charlie, but why do you think you were targeted? Why did he pick on you?
I think he picked on me because I was fundamentally small. I was young for my year, being an August birthday. I think that's always tricky. So I think he basically saw that I was an easy target, being small, being quite naive, let's say, from a more kind of country background, without as much money as the other kids. That was also quite difficult. I didn't have all the kind of same clothes and trendy stuff that they had. And I wasn't kind of as streetwise maybe as them. So, you know, maybe they were more kind of versed in the likes of drinking and smoking in those early teenage years, and I really wasn't. I also wasn't particularly good at the major sports, I think, which made it much easier to target me.
You talked about not having the same kind of cool clothes or perception of being cool, and there's one story that you tell of persuading your mum to buy you a particular pair of shoes so that you could fit in.
Yes, yeah. So I convinced her, I think probably at the start of the second year of that school, to buy me some of these kind of, I think it was skater shoes at the time that everyone wanted. And I convinced her to buy me some of those. She probably wouldn't have done otherwise. And got back to school, and the ringleader of this bullying convinced me that he needed to make them look more worn. So he actually took them and ground them to a bit of a pulp, basically, on one of the walls outside the school. Convincing me that actually what I needed to do was make them look like they would be more worn, and actually, basically just destroyed them.
And you endured this for how long before you actually told anyone and told your parents?
Pretty much 2 years, actually. So it was, I think, being a young man at the time, I felt this great pressure to be a man about the experiences and just get on with things. I thought the problem was with me, not with the situation or with them. So I thought, I just got to deal with this, and so I did, and I just buttoned down and just carried on with school life and kept it to myself until, kind of going back to school one day towards the end of the second year there, when I just effectively kind of broke down to my mum, and eventually it all came out, and they took it up with the school, and they ended up withdrawing me from that school.
But it's had a lasting impact on you, Charlie.
Definitely, yeah. So, I ended up going through a lot of personal challenges, kind of mental health-wise, depression, anxiety, insomnia, attachment issues in terms of relationships. And I mean, this was, the bullying was over 20 years ago. And I ended up, in therapy, and a lot of it was linked to, a lot of the issues that I was having was linked to that time. I mean, the research definitely suggests that I think people can end up with psychological trauma from bullying that can last a lifetime.
And through the
So
therapy, you made a decision to do something about this in adulthood, and you actually made contact with your bully. What happened?
I did indeed, yeah. So as part of this process of therapy and CBT and all sorts of other things that I tried, I went on this kind of personal development weekend, let's call it. And at the end of that weekend, they encourage you to catch up with people you have unresolved issues with. And so I ended up calling up the guy who bullied me. Obviously, I had a lot of unresolved issues with him. I had a lot of, I'd had nightmares or dreams about meeting him and beating him up, or trying to, smashing all his windows and slashing his car tires. I really had so much pain and anger against him that was clearly still in my subconscious. So I recognized I needed to deal with that. So yeah, after this weekend, I ended up finding him on Facebook, and within 10 minutes of deciding to contact him, I was actually on the phone to him, which was an enormously powerful experience.
And you ended up meeting, we haven't got very long left, but you discovered that actually this was something that had haunted him still too.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, he was a perfectly nice guy when I met up with him. Just like anyone, he had gone through a difficult time and was taking it out on me, unfortunately. But he had a difficult time at school, and had decided that his way of dealing with that was making someone else feel bad. So, I met up with him in a pub, had a really interesting chat. It would look like just a couple of old friends, reminiscing about the past. It was obviously quite a scary thing to do, but I'm so glad I did it, because it was a very healing, kind of cathartic experience for both of us, actually.
Charlie, thank you very much indeed. A healing experience, and your experiences that you've used to help others. Charlie Hoare, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Sarah.